Running Sentences presents Work, Work, and More Work. Part 8. More plans and plots. The trio try to plot some more to get out of this mess, but it is a mess, and the options felt limited for them to get what they want. This story is written and narrated by Michael Hunray. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within the story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on is purely coincidental. Copyright 2025, Michael Hunray. All rights reserved. Jess and Lindsey sit about the meeting room, continuing their debate about the next step to do. Firing the whole company sounds terrible, but at the same time, Lindsey had crossed her arms as she thought about the potential solutions that didn't involve starting pretty much a brand new company. Jess, though, leaned in from his seat, eager to drive home his point. Lots we could try, but we don't have the support to pull it off. That feels like it is giving up, though, and I don't want to do that, Jess. How much allegiance to this company do you have? She pauses, though, with a surprised look on her face this time. He knew he'd scored a point that time, since it was something people rarely thought about, and when they did, it generally made them unhappy with how much they'd given to a company for so little in return. No more than anyone else, I suppose. Yet you keep trying to come up with solutions, Lindsey, to their problems that they've created. The job pays okay, and this is the first time I've really been noticed at this company. It feels like I owe at least a little effort for all that's going on. Jess looked at her skeptically. For all the work you've done, you still think you need to give them more? Oh, I don't know. Something makes me feel like it would be worth it to push for this. Why don't you care? This was your baby, your company, and now you seem to be on the edge of just throwing it all away. I'm being practical about it all. Things only last for so long, and I'm only here until things get clarified. Once that's done, all that's left is goodbye. So that leaves me and Bruno to actually do any of the work. No, I am helping, Lindsey. I did come up with the latest suggestion, and the ideas that you were trying to press so recently until Bruno's latest news brought those things down a bit. There was quite a bit of grumbling from her as the door opened in with Bruno coming in. He stops and stares at them for the second. Is something going on here? Do I need to come back later? No and yes. Jess has a grand new idea for how he wants to fix this situation. Really? Is it any good? Yes and no, Bruno. What does that mean? What does he mean by that, Lindsey? He sees only one way forward, since everyone is set on not doing anything for the company anymore, Lindsey explained. With glances between the two, Bruno looked more lost than ever, and he did his best to draw himself up, though Jess thought that was rather an amusing effort, as he wasn't the biggest man to do so. That doesn't clear up anything. It is more words and no solution to our problem. Just can you answer the question? Simply put, I think our way forward, and my way forward, is to restart the company from the beginning. It's the only real great solution that anyone would accept, I think. How is that the best way forward? Jess gave a quick rundown on his thoughts, which Bruno did not seem to like any more than Lindsey had. It was a simple idea, though, and perhaps the best one they had at the moment. No one wanted to work here anymore, so shutting it down was the only way forward. I still don't buy it. The reasoning's fine, but everything else feels like a huge nope. Why would anyone agree to any of it? I tend to agree with her. Well, then you two come up with some ideas. I haven't heard much out of you two. Well, we can, but first, what was that meeting about, Bruno? Oh, they wanted to know what we were up to and how well we were doing on things. I told them the truth, that we were working on it with all possible speed. And did that buy you any more time, Bruno? Are we still running out of money and time? Well, we have a week for something solid to come to them. That is no time at all, Lindsey proclaimed. It is what we have, Lindsey, and I don't think they're willing to give us any more than that. What will you do, O leader of this project, then? Well, we set forward to finding a great solution. Not yours, though, Jess. Which of my solutions are you trying to avoid? The one that came up with the ideas on your whiteboard, or my most recent one? Bruno shook his head at him and moved towards his usual seat at the head of the meeting room table. There, he dropped a few papers he'd been carrying, then turned to the nearby whiteboard. We get to work on this stuff. For Lindsey, the day had been horrible. Lots of talking had happened and little results, and Jess's ideas were still lingering in her mind as potentially the best solutions. She hated that they might be the only good answers that they had to come from all of this, when there should be so much more. She was making her way across the lobby with the thought of getting a drink at home and getting rid of all of these cursed thoughts and relaxing now that her day was over. A soft voice cleared their throat not far from her. Ahem. She looked to see where it had come from and felt their stomach drop a bit. Portly stood there just off to her side in a neatly pressed suit. I dread to know what you want from me, Mr. Portly. A bit of time is all that I ask. You would want more than that, and I don't think I can provide it. Please, talking is such an important part of business, and you don't want to lose out on your deal now, do you? Is that still active, to get a good recommendation? You vanished and everyone went back to pretending that everything was normal again, so I don't think that deal is active. Hell, even Jess is back at work with his schemes. Portly then took a menacing step towards her, so that he could tower over her with a grimace on his face. There was something dark about him as she said these comments. What were his plans? Just the one we came up with, improving morale by spending money. You made it sound like he'd come up with something else. Why does it matter if he does or doesn't do that? He is the type of person who needs to be kept in check. Wild ideas and creations do not help run a company. He failed the company when he kept doing that. Whatever creations and ideas he comes up with won't help you. She took a step back, trying to study the man, but he took a step forward as a result. There was a persistence about getting some answers out of her that she really didn't like one bit. Being hounded like this wasn't going to make her give them up, though. Sir, I think you are mistaken. Am I? About what? Me knowing anything at all. They tell me ideas, but don't consult me on what's going on. Your better bet would be go talk to Bruno. I can't do that. Lindsey did her best to fight back a snicker that came to her. It felt rather amusing that Portly, who wanted so much to know things, couldn't really go to any source other than her, which made her grin as she said to him, Well, then you could talk to Jess, can't you? Oh, he won't talk to me. Have you tried? You never know until you try, that's what I've heard people say. I can't believe I'm saying this to an older gentleman who I have to treat like a child, since they're throwing a tantrum. I resent that. I am not doing that. And I resent being accosted like this by someone who claims to be out of the picture of this business. We both can't get what we want, so we best both move on to better things. I can make sure you never work again. She stepped around and charged towards the door. I think I can live with that. The three collected themselves, as per usual, in their meeting room the next morning. Bruno was moping about as he stared at the whiteboard, hoping for some new answer to come to him. None were, and Jess's solutions sounded all too good right now. Did I tell you two that I got approached by Portley? Oh, what did he want, Lindsey? Information on what you are up to, Jess. Why would he want that? Thankful for this distraction, Bruno turned to them as he said this. Well, I assume he's up to something. I don't know. It was out of nowhere last night as I was leaving. What would he gain? The company, maybe, Jess? No, he can get that anytime. He just needs to flash enough cash and everyone will do what exactly he wants. Well, he was most worried about you, Jess. Me? Why? Bruno frowned. He expected it to be him that caused the most worry, but it wasn't. That should be a relief to some, but felt rather empty where there should be emotion I should have been. Yes, why him? I think it had something to do with being a founder of the original company. I wasn't really that much of a founder, though. Really? You act as if you were? Well, Bruno, that's because I was the 5th or 6th person brought on. How are you unsure with so few workers? Well, it's a counting numbers game. A person only lasted a day or two before quitting, so I was never entirely sure if that counted as employed or not, and if they counted on founding a company, or it's just math. I say it definitely counts, but I see your point in that it wouldn't make much sense to count them. That fails to solve the problem of why you, though, Jess. I couldn't tell you to begin with. And anyway, this is more of a distraction from our work than doing our work. We can't even do our work, though, Jess. There's no plans for what to do next, since no one will allow us to move our real plans forward. Bruno nodded along savagely. It was too true, and he was starting to lose a bit of faith that he had in this company. I mean, he had a lot of faith in the company, but it was sort of shattered a bit. Matters should not be so complicated, and employees shouldn't really need that much faith in the company. But apparently the rest of this staff and workers in this company did need that sort of stuff, Bruno thought to himself. What are we going to do then? Well, there is always my other plan, Jess said to Bruno. That will not go over well with anyone whatsoever. No, but it would get the job done as long as upper management sticks to it. Doing all he could, Bruno tried not to laugh at that. Even he knew that no company would do such a thing if they could get away with it. That is such a far-fetched belief if I've ever heard one, Jess. Okay, but in theory, it should work. We don't have time for theories anymore. All we can do is present this idea, which won't be accepted, as it's expensive to change the gears and they're stuck in motion. Nobody wants to fire an entire company, and no one wants to offer help. Narrowing his eyes, Bruno turned to look at the whiteboard, his brain moving too quickly to express his own ideas out loud. Changing gears, though, was possible, even in a runaway vehicle, which might not do much other than make people feel happier about doing something. What if we show them that? Show who what, Bruno? How we can change gears, Lindsey. Lindsey got up from her chair and stared across at him, even as he turned to offer an apologetic smile. We show what change we can do, but the higher-ups don't have to follow through on what change we have to do. Show them the way and let them take charge of it. The promise of change is as good as change, isn't it? Not really, Bruno, but a company not willing to change would be a gold mine, Jess said. And would absolutely plummet morale once discovered, and there would be no coming back from it. Yes, only if there was morale to be had in the first place, though, Lindsey. They would lose every or most of the staff and knowledge base that they've gathered once it was found out, Lindsey added. Well then, no, that's the boss's problem, since they're the ones making the promises and trying to fix it. Well, if you can get them to make any promises in the first place, Bruno. Now, that is now our job. We get them to make the promises, and our hands will be clear. No, that isn't going to end well. Let's take it to the CEO then. See what Miss Barley has to say. Oh, I can definitely tell you how it's going to end. Not well at all, Lindsey said with a shake of her head. Barley had emerged from her office and came to a stop as Bruno, Jess, and Lindsey stood up in the waiting area outside of it. She looked tiredly at them as Lindsey did her best to hide behind Bruno and Jess so that she didn't draw as much fire and anger. There was a lot of bad ideas going around lately, and she really did not want to be blamed for them. I was just talking to you yesterday, Bruno, at that meeting. What do you want now? We have a proposal on how to improve things that we think you might like. It's not all of us that like the idea, though, so we're just throwing that out there. Jess added to Bruno's comments. It should be pointed out that no one likes your ideas either, Jess. They're the best option we have, though. No, not compared to mine, Jess. What is your plan, Bruno? Barley broke in. Well, Miss CEO, you wanted to present the company as shifting gears to be better. You only have to present that. You never actually have to do it. Your grand plan is to fake doing something, Bruno? Yes, Miss Barley. I would expect something like that from Jess for how lazy he's been the last few years, Miss Barley said. Not lazy, worn out by the corporate machine, thank you. Not lazy. That is still lazy to me, and this isn't really a plan, is it? More of a vague concept that you'll hope I'll say yes to, so that you can stop all of this? Well, we're not hoping to stop the work, but it is our end goal to come up with a solution, and this buys us time to figure out a solution, don't you think? And so far you've shot down all of our other ideas that you think won't work. And what Bruno and Jess are saying, it will work in theory. You don't think you're part of this, Miss Lindsey? Miss Barley replied. I am a part of it, but my ideas haven't been out loud as these two. You haven't come up with any ideas, Lindsey, Bruno said. Well, that too. Well, then, Lindsey, you may be our only hope, then. These two think they can think their way out of this, and that clearly is not the case. What are we supposed to be doing, then, Miss Barley? You built this group to think of solutions, and now you're saying that isn't what you want? Jess asked. Keep hammering away at your ideas until they become acceptable to me, Jess. What else would you be thinking of doing? Quitting? Wouldn't you lose out on money by doing that? Yeah, but this company isn't going to pay out anyway, or improve anytime soon, so it doesn't really make any sense to stick around, Lindsey. Fine. How about this, then? You figure out a way to make sure that people stay and want to work here. That's what I want. Isn't that our original job, though, Miss Barley, Miss CEO? Yes, it is, Lindsey. Congratulations on figuring that out. Now go back to work, you three, and don't forget you actually have to come up with something we can use. We've tried twice, and you said no. The CEO fixed Bruno with a look, and then breezed on by. It was lunchtime, and Jess was eager to get to lunch after this disastrous morning. The thoughts of quitting sitting high on his mind since no one listened to his ideas anymore. Well, they listened, but they also dismissed them as implausible to execute, which was pure bullshit from his perspective. He'd made it all of a few steps across the hallway outside of the meeting room. Oh, when he saw Mikhail coming down the hallway, and really wanted to avoid him, but he'd already been spotted. Mr. Jess, do you have a moment? Not really, no, Mr. McHale. Good, we can talk then. About what? And if it has to do with this project, you should go speak with Bruno. He's still in the meeting room. He is the leader. He knows it all. I know. I won't do it all. I need an outside perspective on the matter, so he wouldn't work. I don't think I can be much of a help at that. I don't know anything, and no one listens to me about how badly things are going, Jess told him. Those two working with you will listen, though, once they come around to the ideas that you've got. To an extent, they will listen, and then they stop when things get expensive. Since we can't get any money to make things work, it's a bit of a roundabout, nobody getting anything that they want. What if I said I had a potential way to get that money? Jess felt his eyes narrowing at the man, trying to figure out what he was trying to do. Start a new company, or something else. Did it really matter all that much to him, though? Congrats. Go talk to Bruno or Lindsey, since they'll be leading the charge to do whatever you're doing. No, I've come to you, though, to do this project. Yes, and I reject whatever you want, Mr. McHale. I can't help. Why? McHale said, fixing him with an odd glare to try and figure him out, I guessed. Because I'm quitting. No, you can't do that. Well, yes, I can, McHale. There's literally nothing that says I can't. No reason for me to stay here. No reason for much of anything when it is all said and done. Fine, McHale said with a grumble, then carried on. I will tell you a little bit about my thing, my project. Are you interested in restarting this business that you helped found? Not ready to say no to anything and everything out of Mikhail's mouth. It felt wrong and weird and off balance. Jess wasn't really ready to say no to anything and everything out of this man. Once he'd said that, it was best to try and figure out what he wanted and maybe go for it if it sounded right. This, though, it stank to high heaven, but he still needed to hear more. Explain, Jess requested. This company is going down, as you know, Jess, which you and I can easily see. I've gotten funding to fix the problems and start anew by someone else. This was actually exactly what Jess had wanted, but trusting the executives who would put the company in its current position, that felt like it would be merely walking into the same problem they currently had in a few years' time. And what would this company be doing? Oh, well, consulting work to start off, Jess, and then development of projects that can be brought from the ashes, that we can buy from the ashes of this company. What do you say? I'll think on it, Mikhail. I need more than that from you, Jess. Well, that is all I can give you at this moment. Have you talked to Lindsey or Bruno or anyone else at this matter? No, I cannot reveal who I've talked to, and it wouldn't do well to mention names. Oh, you've gotten yourself stuck in a non-disclosure situation. Potentially, yes, Jess. With a sigh, I just felt like everything was pulling on him to drag him down. He no longer wanted to deal with any of this, and Mikhail wasn't accepting his answer that things were complicated and no wouldn't be what he wanted to hear right now. A grumbling stomach furthered the fact that he wanted out of here. I don't know. Go do whatever you're going to go do. I think, and I feel, and I know we need you, though. For what, Mikhail? You know the projects that we will be buying, so you will know all the ins and outs of those things. No, I used to know them. Now, if you'll excuse me, it's time for lunch, and for the record, my answer is going to be no. Then you will regret it. Yes, was shaking his head no. I've regretted a lot of things in my life. This one doesn't seem to be really all that high up there. Oh, it will be. Jess, though, shook his head and bone rushed past the man, hoping that it'd be enough to get him to leave him alone. Needing a break from staring at the endless whiteboards and trying to throw ideas at it, Bruno found the nearest break room. It was a small solitude from the meeting room space, though empty of any snacks or beverages. There was a worker with a box of snacks that he should be restocking, but the box was mostly empty already. What happened to all of his snacks? We only get what we get. First come, first served for these sorts of things. And who gets served first? Who do you think, mister? The higher-ups? Ding, 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 you got it first guess. All the good and best snacks and drinks go to them, then? The worker nodded as they took out a small bag of chips and placed it into a mostly empty basket. They then brought out a bottled drink from a box and gently set it down next to that bag. With their work apparently done, the worker then dusted off their hands like they'd done a good job. That's all you're going to put there? I'll have to stretch out what we got for the rest of the break rooms on this floor. So, yup, what's with these questions? I've been assigned to a team looking into workers' environment around here, trying to make employees' lives better and all of that. Well, that sounds like a terrible and boring job, mister. It doesn't have many perks now, but it is a job that must be done. Do you work for the company, or are you a contractor just delivering the snacks and so on? Do a bit of both, really. My employer is another company, but this business is the one who pays my paycheck. Why? I'm just wondering how you might improve the workplace is all. Why would I know anything about that? I deliver goods to break rooms. You think I stick around this place long enough to get to know people? The words didn't sound very kind to Bruno, who winced. More workers who didn't seem to care about things, which meant this was going to go nowhere. You might. You never know if you don't try and to think about how you might improve things. Dude, I drop off snacks and drinks to keep these employees happy, and you don't have enough of them. That's all I do. That's all I know. So, more snacks, that's what you would change? Yeah, sure. Look, I have to finish my work. Good luck with whatever it is you're doing. The worker picked up their box, which still had quite a few snacks and bottles in it, and wandered out. Watching him go, Bruno frowned, and then wondered, not for the first time, if Jess really was right. This really isn't going well at all. Lindsey wandered around the meeting room waiting for either of her other two colleagues to return. The janitor from before was back and cleaning once again, which was nice since she didn't want to be alone with her thoughts. You get far with your research today, or your whatever it is you're doing again? Nope, we're still stuck on the same idea we had last time. No movement on how to help out this company. You mean help out the workers? Yeah, only it has to be good for the company for the higher-ups to want to do any of it. Oh, what a weird situation. She found herself nodding along, trying to find some good in what was going on. There really wasn't much that she could think of or say that would add to any more of this conversation. Do you have any ideas that could help out? I mean, aside from your original suggestion. Me? Yeah, you have a good idea, says anyone else. Why shouldn't you have more saying things? I don't know. Oh, come on. You're a smart-looking person. Everyone has ideas about things. There's no reason to fear anyone ridiculing you or something. Oh, no, I'm not afraid of that. What's the problem, then? Well, it's not my job to do this. You can't tell me you don't think of ways of improving your own job as you're doing it. Everyone thinks of stuff that will simplify or improve their work. What would you do to make your life easier, Oh, yeah, I have ideas. But they're simple things like changing cleaning brands. That idea that had been forming in Lindsey's mind came to full fruition. Great! Awesome. You go talk to the other janitors about what you would improve. Talk to your bosses or anybody who will, listen to us and write down ideas that you want to change. I'll go to the other departments about doing something similar. Then maybe the bosses will see what changes need to be made. Before the janitor could complain or say anything, she gave a sharp nod to him that even she felt was a bit weird as she ran out of the meeting room. End of part 8 of Work, Work, and More Work. Thank you for listening.